What's up, people? Hold on. What's up, people? I am back for another video. Today, I am reviewing Cloud and Cornfield. I saw the trailer for this a couple of months ago because they were playing it on YouTube for a while, and it hooked me. Because y'all know I'm a slasher guy, so it's easy to really get me with these kind of movies. So I saw the trailer. It was like these killers. Uh, shit. So the movie basically is a premise. Um, the town's mascot Friendo the clown is killing people who are deemed the bad ones or the bad seeds. But I'm just gonna spoil the reveal. Is that it's like a couple people in town who want to kill basically the undesirables, and that's kind of what it's like, a reverse, almost like um fucking Children of the Corn in a way. Instead, it's the adults. Here's the issue I had with this film fundamentally. They should have just went. This is a case where I think they should have went the supernatural route. Have it be like a Jason or an Art the Clown. You could have had a new Art the Clown in your hands, but everyone wants to keep. As much as I love Scream, and it worked in Hard Eyes, but there's some movies where I am getting a little bit tired of. We got to have multiple killers because it's two people and everyone's in a costume. I'm kind of getting tired of that. It's starting to just feel like everything wants to be Scream. Like, everybody wants to be Scream with like the multiple killers thing, and I would have rather they had just made Friendo an actual person, or it was an actual serial killer. Maybe the town killed, and he came back, and you just go like all supernatural with it. I think they should have just leaned into that, and I think that would have worked better. Like, look at Art the Clown now. He is a household name, going to have his fourth film within like what, not even 10 years, and he's a household name in terms of the slashers. And I'm not going to say obviously in terms of financially, but he is damn near there with some of the icons of the slasher world. And you could have had that here. But I'm not even saying obviously on the level of those guys, but you could have had a new one. But no, you went we got a copy Scream route. And okay, so Quinn, who's like the main character, and her father, Glenn, who actually is working with the killers, they just straight up drop that. It really seems like they just dropped that plot. So they sneak off to a party, and they're being chased because Quinn starts hanging like with the. I'm just gonna say it, like the bad kids basically, and she starts dating one of them, and the town comes together. There's a couple people in town who actually wants to kill them. And it's basically they feel like these kids are ruining the town's image, and it doesn't even really matter because the reveal doesn't lead to anything. They all get killed, and then Glenn, who's actually part of it, they almost like drop that plot line. It's like they it sorry, I'm stuttering. It really feels like they wanted to originally make him the killer, but they just scrapped it and they kept it in. Why would you keep that in? If you're gonna not make him the killer, you made the decision. You should have either reshot a scene, cut that scene out where he's working with the killers, and then just move on. But the fact you kept it in is very confusing because it's very unresolved. He was clearly part of the group of killers, and they just like, you know what, we're not gonna do that anymore. But we're gonna keep that scene in. And I don't know if they're maybe trying to set up a sequel. I don't think they are, though. It kind of has an ending. So there's some decent kills here and there. There's a really cringe scene. There's a couple cringe scenes. One of them is, and they play it. They play it in the trailer, where one of the kids do not know. The kids do not know how a rotary phone works because they're inside getting chased, and they want to call the police. but their phones aren't working, right? So they see a rotary phone, and they're like, they don't know how to use it. And I'm like, are you telling me you don't have someone in your family, someone in their family? You haven't seen fucking movies where you don't know how the rotary phone works, and it was clearly because they thought it would be funny, but it was just like, okay, this is pathetic. And the unfortunate thing, it is believable in that sense, I guess, that there'd be some kids who wouldn't know how to use it. But there's still a part of like, you don't you have a mom or a dad or someone older in your family who would know how one works? Like, come on, man. I'd like to believe that you have someone older in your family who would at least teach you. And obviously, it's a movie. You can say I'm overthinking it, but it's just, and it just didn't even think. I didn't even think it was funny. I also have a problem that I felt like this movie did not know what it wanted to be. And what I mean is, there's a scene where Quinn and her father get into an argument. This is after he finds out that she's dating let me find the main dude who she's dating. Cole. I think Cole's the main dude she's dating. And he goes off on her, and I guess something happened before, and she brought it up. It's like it wanted to be serious for a second, but then it's like it tries to be a horror comedy. Then it's like very hit and miss. Like Terrifier, for example. Is it straight up horror? For the most part, it is. But there are moments where, because Art is so funny as a killer, that there are some comedic moments, specifically with him, that works. And I think maybe they should have gone that route. That maybe Friendo has funny stuff, and then but the movie itself, they maybe should have leaned into the serious, maybe. Because I already, and this is gonna be another movie I'm gonna review probably maybe tomorrow, because I do plan on seeing Final Destination Bloodlines on Thursday. I think it's Thursday I'm going to go for, because I saw they're doing some showings on Thursday, so I do want to see that then. So we'll probably try to get a review out on that on Thursday. But so we'll do Hell of Summer, which is a way better movie, which I finally was able to watch. I actually watched this and Hell of a Summer back to back. I think I watched this one first, and man, I'm sorry, it's very inconsistent. It's like it wants to be a horror comedy, but then it also wants to be serious. There's even scenes where it tries to go for like jump scares, where it's almost like trying to go for a straight horror. It's so inconsistent in tone. I also felt like Friendo, even just, again, it's multiple people. Friendo, let's just say as a mascot, like Ghostface, even though it is multiple people, you can still kind of talk about Ghostface as a mascot of the films. I feel like there was no pizzazz with any of the people who play Friendo. And I get it, they were just trying to be straight up killers, but it just did not work for me. Will Sasso's in this movie. He plays the sheriff, who's obvious he's one of the killers later. Even in the review, the reveal just was nothing, and then we get a really cringe scene from Cole, who's tied up, because they're trying to kill him in front of Quint, right? And they're trying to go for like this scene where he's telling off the adults, like, well, you're the ones who are ruining the planet, because he mentions climate change. I was fucking out. And my friend Mara had already warned me that there was a scene like this in the movie. Hearing it is worse. There's certain scenes when you hear about it, or someone tells you about it, or you see it, like spoiler on the internet, or leaks, right? It can be described really bad, but there's something to seeing it or hearing about it and then seeing it. Hearing it and seeing it, yeah, it's even worse. Why is this in the fucking movie? Because for the most part, I will say, outside of that really cringy line, there was no weird, like, I guess you want to use the word woke or just political kind of lines. There wasn't any of that in the movie outside of that line. So it threw me the fuck off just because of that. I'm like, if the whole movie was like that, it would be bad, but it'd be like, all right, at least it'd be consistent in that. This line's out of fucking nowhere. You could have just had Cole tell him off in a different way. No, we had to mention climate change for some fucking reason. And they end up killing the killers. Glenn comes to save him, even though he's clearly working with the killers. And I mean it, guys. It's like they're clearly meant for him to be one of the killers, or he's part of it, and they just straight up scrap it. Like, they get killed, and then he comes to get them in the end, and everything's just fine. Because apparently I looked and it says a year. I didn't even know it when I was watching it. Apparently it's a year later. The movie ends, and it's like they jump a year. And it's like they don't even acknowledge it again. It's like they literally scrapped it. It really feels like they were like, okay, we're gonna make him one of the killers, and they're like, we're not gonna do that. We'll just have him be a dad. But then the problem fucking is, cut the scene out where he's helping the killers. Just cut that shit out. I mean, movies go through a bunch of editing and reshoots anyway. And I understand this is a smaller budget movie, so maybe they didn't want to do a bunch of reshoots. Okay. They didn't want to pay an bunch of extra money to do reshoots. Fine. Just cut the scene out where he's working with them. Just straight up, because there's a scene where one of the killers is injured and he's doing like surgery on one of them, or like healing one of their wounds. He's working with them clearly, but they're just like, fuck it, we're not gonna have it. That's just weird to me in terms of someone who just, I'm not like a big editor or anything, but just even knows about it, just knowing about it even without doing it. And it's just weird. Why would you keep that? It feels unresolved. So you should have just cut the scene where he's working with them. Maybe the guy gets injured and then just have one of the killers get injured. He dies from his wounds. And then you just cut the scene where he's helping them. So he just brings the body in and just have it look like he died. And then that's it. And then cut the scene with the dad. Because it's like, how do you see that? And that's the other thing. People watch even movies like this where it's not a bigger budget. You're telling me no one watched this and didn't think like, okay, why is the dad a killer? But then we just scrap it in the end. If we're gonna scrap it in the end, okay, let's cut the scene of him helping him, and then just kind of have the dad be gone for a portion of the movie, and he comes back in the end. It was a weird decision to keep the scene in of him working with the killers, and then just like scrap it in the end, and then have him still technically be, well, I'm a good guy now, even though you were clearly working with him, and then we just don't even acknowledge it for the rest of the movie. Because we clearly decided to change our minds, and we're like, he's not going to be a killer. Which is fine. I don't have a problem with the directors changing their minds, or whoever, or the writers, or whoever changing their minds on it. But you gotta cut that scene out so it doesn't feel unresolved. So yeah, overall, the more I think about it, this movie isn't good. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I think I'm going to bring it down to a 5.5. There are some solid kills. It's not a long fucking movie. That's about it. I think that's all I really got from this fucking movie, because there's not a lot of good. The acting's fine. I like some of the moments where Quinn is hanging out with her dad. Obviously, before the whole thing, he's helping the killer, but then we scrap it shit. I did like the relationship. Even though she was kind of playing the angsty teen, she wasn't full-on angsty at her dad. It was something different. I've been wanting that in a movie for a while. So I guess I got a couple positives, but this movie isn't really good. Definitely do not plan on watching this again. This is a one watch. Really unfortunate too, because maybe I'm going to keep really saying they should have just went full on supernatural. Have Friendo actually be a killer. Maybe the Will Sasso, either his dad or even him, be involved. Do something where he seemingly kills Friendo. Have Friendo be an actual serial killer who gets killed, even illegally. Something like Freddy. Think of something like Freddy, where the killer comes back for revenge, so he starts killing kids. Not even that, killing kids. Just have it be he wants revenge, so he starts killing the town. And he comes back and haunts the town and gets supernatural powers somehow. You don't even really have to explain it. Just, he comes back from the dead, and he's kind of like a Jason type killer. You should have just went that route, instead of the multiple killers under a map. I'm kind of tired of everything going for that. We gotta all be like Scream and have a killer. There's times where it makes sense. Like, it made sense in Thanksgiving, because clearly that film was that was going for the like 90s kind of style of horror. So it made sense in that movie. But I think this is a case maybe they should have went like the Art the Clown route, where he's just a supernatural killer. You could have had a mascot. I'm not saying he would have been the new Art the Clown or been as big as some of these iconic slashers, but you could have made a bunch of Friendo films. You could have made a bunch of Clown in the Cornfields. Honestly. Friendo comes back every couple years and kills a different group of kids. You know? You could have just went that direction, but they decided we have to go the Scream route, where I just think in this case it didn't make sense to go that direction. So overall, this film is not good. I would give it a 5.5 out of 10. One watch, it had some okay kills, but yeah. Inconsistent tone, the going the direction of multiple killers when I really don't think they should have went that route in this film. It didn't even make any sense. You should have just made Friendo. And yet Friendo is such an interesting name too. You could have had a new slasher character. Wouldn't have been maybe not as big as Art the Clown, who's like I would say of like the newer horror villains. He's definitely like the face, I would say, right now in terms of new horror villains. But you could have had something up there, and maybe the film would have been better. Cut out the bad seed element. Even I don't even think that made sense in this movie because it wasn't even consistent. You don't really give a fuck about any of these. Let's say it. Any of the characters dying. The stuff with the dad where he's the killer, or he's working with the killers, but you cut it out and then decide, you know what, he's not the killer anymore, but we're gonna keep the scenes in so the film feels very inconsistent and it's unresolved. It's like the dad's one of the killers. Are we just gonna ignore that, or are we just gonna retcon it? And in there, I'm assuming in creative they decided to retcon it, but then they kept the scene with him. It's so bad. Yeah, there's just too much negatives. The really cringy scene of Cole talking about climate change, the rotary phones. This movie's not good. Its attempts at comedy, I think, is pretty bad too. Whereas Hell of a Summer actually made me laugh a couple times. So, or at least chuckle, At least give me a chuckle. This didn't give me a chuckle at all. So, yeah, 5.5 out of 10. So let's start getting into the actual film now. I'll be doing Hell of a Summer tomorrow. I hope that'll be fun to talk about. I actually might watch it again, give it another watch, give it a second watch since I've only seen it once, so might as well give it a second watch. So watch that tomorrow. And then Thursday, for sure, we will be doing Final Destination Bloodlines. Because I do plan on seeing it Thursday. So, anyways, we Pin Down Podcast will be live this Saturday. Subscribe to it, and then let's get into it. Movie opens, we basically start in the 90s where a couple is killed, or a group of teenagers are partying and they're killed by a bunch of people, or two teens are killed. I will say, this is one of the better scenes. I do like the callback to Jaws, because you remember how Jaws started. Guy was smoking and drinking, and a girl hooks up with him and she lures him away. Basically similar scene here. And then Frendo's kill him. This is where you meet Quinn and her father. They move into Kettle Springs. Their mother is dead. So she immediately gets detention and she starts befriending Cole and his friends. And they're like basically kind of like the bad kids. her and her dad have lunch, and this is where you meet Will Sasso's character, Sheriff George, who's like the local town sheriff, and he kind of warns them about those kids. So Tucker, who's one of the friends, ends up getting killed by Friendo because he. Also, that was the other thing. They were having Friendo texting. I would have cut that out too. That was weird. It was like I also felt like it was a copy of Thanksgiving because if you watch Thanksgiving, the killer was like doing a bunch of messages and using social media. They didn't go that far and have him use social media, but he was sending messages with his face on it to scare the kids. It made me think Thanksgiving, and I also don't really like how the killer was tech savvy. That's what made me also like, okay, this is gonna be just a guy because clearly he knows how internet works. At a festival happens is the Founders Day festival, and the friendo float ends up getting caught on fire. They think it's the kids, so they get thrown in like the jail for a night. Matt ends up killed. I think the other problem I have with the kills, I'm all for quick kills, but I don't think they all should be quick. I There were some chases, but the chase scenes didn't do it for me. And I think it also didn't help because the lighting, especially jumping ahead when there's a scene where they're in this like abandoned factory or house or whatever, and actually I think it was a house, and the lighting in it, it's so bad, like you barely can kind of see shit. And if you're gonna do chase scenes, I want to be able to see it even at night. There's a way to do night scenes and you can still see shit. It wasn't like AVPR bad, but there are times where I'm like, I couldn't really tell what was going on at times. So, so Cole and Quinn sneak off to a party. Okay, before that, there's a scene where her dad sees her with Cole, and and then she brings up her mom's death, kind of going off on him. This is a scene where I'm like, is this movie trying to be serious, or are you trying to go for like a comedy tone? Because after this scene, it doesn't really get this serious again for like at least a portion of the movie. It's like back to kind of normal horror movie, teens go to party stuff kind of thing. And then it tries to be a horror comedy. It's so weird. If you're gonna be a horror comedy, be a horror comedy, and that's what made Hell of a Summer work. It went all in on the horror comedy. It didn't try to really be serious. This is like, oh, let's try to be somewhat a serious horror movie, but we also want to still do the horror comedy thing. Like Scream had a nice, even Thanksgiving. I thought that if I'm going to use a more of a modern example of a like, I thought I could think of like a slasher where it's played it serious at times, but it still managed to balance the. It clearly wanted to lean into the goof, the fun of it, or the horror comedy aspect. I felt like this did it badly. Whoever directed this did it badly. It was tonally. It was almost like a tonal shift. Like I think there's a difference between just being a horror comedy where you can still maintain, because even horror comedies you can have some serious horror moments in it. Evil Dead 2, there's some serious horror moments in Evil Dead 2. It is still more of a comedy, but it definitely still has serious stuff. So there's a balance. Even like there's action comedy where you still have like those action moments, but it's still a comedy. There's not like a tonal shift. There's a tonal shift in this film. Straight up, I'm gonna be honest. There's a tonal shift at times. Like this scene tries to be really serious, and then you get a scene like, even in the end, a little bit it tries to get serious, and then it tries to then play off like a comedy, especially like the rotary phone scene. So it's like, what the fuck? You're so like, go all in on one side. Either go all in on the horror comedy side or go all in on this straight up the pure horror side. And maybe Friendo, if you had just went the supernatural route, can be maybe the comedy where he has like the physical comedy kind of similar. You don't make him an art ripoff, but do stuff like that where Terrifier, for the most part, like with the victims, it's not like a horror comedy. It's still done like a traditional normal slasher. But with art specifically, there are those moments where he can be funny and he makes you laugh, but you are watching a horror. It's still played relatively straight with everybody else. You could have just went that route with this. It was it's like they wanted both. You can't do both. Either go all in on the horror comedy side of it or fucking make it a straight up just pure slasher. Maybe have a little bit of the comedy from the killer. Like even Nightmare on Elm Street, like is another example where, especially later, I'll just say the first two, and then even three, where everything else was still horror, but Freddy, he was the only like one where there was a bit of comedy, but it wasn't overdone in those first three films. Where he was still scary, but he still had moments of comedy. So that's how you do it. I think maybe they should have went that route with Friendo instead of the multiple killers thing, and then the stuff with Tech. It was. So while during the party, so Matt and Ginger are killed, and their bodies are thrown, and people think it's a joke, but no, it's real. And then that's when a bunch of friendos. And that's the other problem. Like the scenes where you just see multiple friendos chasing them, it takes me out of the movie. At least with those first couple screams. For most of the Scream films, you don't see multiple ghost faces coming at you. It's still one, but it's just two different guys in a costume. So, but they don't have multiple ones come at you at the same fucking time. I think in Scream 6, there were like, they all come out in the end when they do the reveal. But I don't even count that. During the actual chase and when Ghostface is on screen, it's still one Ghostface. Same with, I'll even do Thanksgiving. I know I'm bringing that one up a lot, but that's just because that's more of a recent one where. Oh, okay, I'll do Hard Eyes. That's a even more recent one. That came out this year. Multiple killers. The killer, when he's on screen, when Hard Eyes is on screen, or Heck, as some they were calling him in the movie, he was just by himself. It was just one person. It was just clearly two different people in the costume, but it was just Heck by himself on screen when he's in the costume. Outside of the fake out scene, but even in the fake out scene, it was still one Heck on screen. When there's like a bunch of just friendos, it was just stupid. I'm like, what are we doing? That's not even scary. That's just too fucking much. Yeah, this is not a. Honestly, the more I think about it, this is not a good movie at all. The more I think about it, this is where we get the fucking rotary phone scene where they didn't even know how to use it because they're in this old house. Kills Janet. And this is where Glenn works with the killers. Granted, they do. I think they're, now that I'm remembering, they do try to have it be like he's seemingly forced, but the vibe I got was he just got out and they just dropped it. Because I'm not even the only one who's pointed this plot hole out. I've seen multiple people point this plot hole out, so it's not even just me. It's like we're just gonna drop that. It feels like he just turned on them because he saw that it was gonna fail, and I went, oh, I'm gonna switch sides. You should have, if you're gonna go that route, even you should have made that more blatant, because this it's so half and half. It still feels like you just wanted to just not go all in on him being a killer. If you're gonna not do, just cut the scene out in general entirely. Have him just have it be the guy who gets injured, who got injured, just dies from his wounds, and then just do the scene. They bring his body in. You cut this shit out, and it just trim it or trim the movie. Like trim the scene out is all I'm saying. It's so distracting. It's really fucking distracting. Like I'm not kidding you guys. It. I still think about this fucking scene right now. Like it. It really bogs down the scene. This whole movie, and then dad's gone for the rest of it. Quinn wakes. I'll just jump ahead. Quinn wakes up inside the factory. She's tied up. She sees Cole tied up. This is where we get the reveal that fucking, and it's so on the nose because it's all the people who basically are supposed to be the good guys, right? You have the sheriff. Oh, before there's a scene where Cole gets arrested and his friends try to stop him from getting arrested. He's clearly there. It's like even there they weren't even hiding he was the killer. That was the other problem I had because there you can make it seem like, oh, he's just a sheriff, so he has a right to just arrest him, but they're clearly making it fucking obvious he's the fucking killer because he's gonna arrest him but tie him up later. It's like you can't even hide it. At least don't do shit like that where it's like so fucking obvious like, he's the killer. It's, so it's George, who's the sheriff, Mr. Vern, who's a teacher, the shopkeeper, the waitress, all the people who work in town who and basically blame Cole, Quinn, and her friends. So Cole, who's the mayor, or and they want to blame the murders on basically Cole and Quinn, and essentially saying the teens are why the town. It's so. Why did you go this direction? Why? Why did we go this weird direction? They want to kill the kids because oh they're bad eggs. Essentially, it's like what? And this is where we get the shitty speech from Cole about fucking climate change. Like, you're generated from that. God, I hate this movie. The more I think about it, because it had, in a weird way, and I know, and maybe it's just because I'm a slasher guy. I understand slashers aren't like all cinema, right? But there was potential here to make a decent slasher. You could have made Friendo a character. He wasn't even a character. The fact that they were able to make Heck look at obviously where it all started with Scream with Ghostface. Yeah, were they people basically under the mask? But when they're in the mask, it's almost like a mascot of the film. They almost feel like in a weird way they're fucking characters, even though they're not actual characters in that sense. They're not like a Michael Myers or a Jason or a Freddy who are actual beings, right? So in this case, they should have went the route of it being an actual being like an Art the Clown, a Michael Myers. They should have just went that route. Cut this stupid bad egg because it didn't even matter because they all get killed. Quinn frees Cole. They escape. I'm just gonna jump ahead and speed run the rest of the movie. Father comes back, saves them, and the movie jumps ahead. We see Quinn get like some kind of weapon. She's leaving for college. And then that's it. And then she throws some box out the window. Whatever. Fuck this movie. The more I think about it. Because it had potential and they went this weird fucking route. And I think what really sucks about this movie is slashers are so easy to do. They don't need to be cinema. For me, give me some cool kills, an interesting killer to follow, interesting, or at least decent enough actors. And I think in that part of it, the movie for the most part was fine. The I'll just call them the victims, minus the final girl and the guy, were fine. It's literally the whole stupid element with the multiple killers, the whole, oh, they're killing the bad eggs. Why do we go this route in this movie? It doesn't make sense. You could have actually made Friendo a being. He could have been the face. You could have made it something like the sheriff killed. Having Friendo be a serial killer that killed a bunch of people. Either Will Sasso's character was the one who stopped him, or you go the route of his father being the one who did it. And kills him, but in some way where he's not fully dead and he comes. Basically, you could have Maniac Cop this kind of shit, where the killer's actually isn't dead, he was just kind of dormant for a while. Some supernatural shit happens, and he has supernatural abilities, and he's Friendo. And even do something where you show him he's kind of like whimsical as a killer in his human form, but now in his supernatural, he's full on whimsical. But he kills people in brutal ways because now he has strength, and go that route with it. And he just wants revenge on the town. And then Will Sasso, you could have actually made an actual character, finds out about this. Maybe he didn't even know. Finds this out somehow. There's so many ways they could have went with this movie. And then the stupid climate change speak. Like, why is that there? If you're gonna make this kind of movie, there's a bunch of messaging. Put the whole thing there. Don't give me this jarring scene where he goes on about climate change. The whole movie doesn't even really go there. I'm gonna say it. There's no real mention of shit like that for the rest of the film, minus that scene. So it's so fucking jarring. It really feels like the director was like, you know what? I'm gonna put my views in this scene. I'm gonna be this kid putting a political speech out there just randomly in the film. It's like, why is this here? Ugh, this whole movie's cringe. The rotary phone scene's cringe. The attempts at humor in general in this movie is cringe and bad. No even memorable score, even. Yeah, this movie, I said 5.5. This is a 4. I'm gonna give it a 4. Straight up. Never watch again. What a waste. Good, interesting idea. Or at least the premise, somewhat with the friendo aspect of it being interesting, and they didn't even explore it. So, really bad movie, the more I think about it. So, anyway, I'm going to probably get ready to wrap it here. Tomorrow, Hell of a Summer, which is a much better movie. I actually really enjoyed. So, I'm actually going to watch that again tomorrow just to kind of get a... Might as well watch it. I wanted to get a second watch anyway. So, let's do it tomorrow. Hopefully it holds up, because I think at least first watch I gave it a 7, so we'll see if it stays that way tomorrow. There's some stuff I didn't like. I thought the reveal was kind of weak of the killer, but I like the camp aspect. I love how much it played into the 80s kind of camp slasher trope for sure. Very Gen Z characters. If I had to say a very weak aspect of the movie is that, but characters don't inherently destroy a slasher, or even horror, but definitely a slasher specifically, because you don't, outside of like Halloween and some certain slashers, Scream to an extent, where there's really good characters, a lot of the time the characters can be okay as long as they're just fine. They don't need to be the best acting in the fucking world or the best written characters ever. A lot of times they can be very surface level, and that's fine. I don't need anything crazy. So, Hell of a Summer thought that brought that aspect fine. Like, they're surface level characters that are fine. I didn't love how much, like, it's R rated, but there was so many cutaways. I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. There's like 3 or 4 of them, and I was like, okay, guys, I do want to see some of these kills. If you're gonna be R-rated, show me the R-rated. I am not saying this needs to be Terrifier. You know, even Hard Eyes got gory. You know, Hard Eyes got gory, and it wasn't like ridiculously violent. So there's a way to be like show violence and not. You don't have to be fucking Terrifier. You know, I'm not saying this film had to be Terrifier. I just didn't love all the cutaways. I thought it was getting a little ridiculous at this point. It was almost like, is this supposed to be PG-13, but you just decided to make it R-rated? I don't know what happened. They did show some kills, and the ones they did show were good. It's just there was a bunch of cutaways where it just got ridiculous. But other than that, Hell of a Summer was pretty good, so I'll be talking about that tomorrow. I can't wait till Thursday, though. I want to watch Final Destination. I just can't wait to watch the new one. I love this franchise for the most part, outside of 4. If you can just give me some fun kills, fun little tie-ins to the other films, I'm in. So watch us on Saturday for Pin Down. We'll be back. Me and the boy. Oh, it will probably just be me and Tyler. But yeah, we should be live. Got a lot to talk about, especially with the Sabu shit and GCW. It's a long fucking story, so I'll save that for Saturday. But yeah, we'll be talking about that. But yeah, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all later.